to the latest episode of Band Stuff. If you would, real quickly, please like and subscribe and encourage me to put out more videos like this. You know, one of the most important parts of teaching is the idea of reviewing things. And reviewing is important, but at the same time can be very, very depressing. Have you ever taught what you thought was probably maybe one of the best lessons you've ever taught? And the next day when you're reviewing it, you ask questions about it and all the students are looking at you like, like they've never heard it before. And your teacher self-esteem just kind of goes down the drain immediately. And this happens to me, more than I would like to admit. So I'm always trying to think of things that will help the information that I teach stick. A few years ago, I found a really good book. I think I found it in a discount bin, but you can find good stuff there. It's called Made to Stick by Chip Heath and his brother, Dan Heath. And so it's been out, I think, about 14 years, but the ideas are still great. And they propose what's called the success model in terms of helping ideas that you teach stick in your students' minds. And it's success with only one S at the end. Simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotion, and stories. Success without the last S. Now I'm going to talk about each one of these 6 ideas that could maybe help your review sessions be more exciting when the kids remember what you talked about the day before. Number 1, simple. I think one of the things that you're going to want to strive for as an educator, particularly if you're a young educator, is to be able to get great results with simpler explanations. I had a tendency early in my career, particularly when it came to teaching breathing, to give all these physiological examples and explanations that they didn't need. But over the years, I got to where I really pared down my explanations. So when it comes to teaching breathing, keep it as simple as you can. Also, when it comes to rhythm, I like to use just a simple statement with my students, and that is rhythm is number 1. When it comes to sight reading new music, most kids are going to have to kind of prioritize things in terms of what they're going to concentrate on most when they're playing a new piece. And so I tell them when we're playing as a group, rhythm is number 1. Because even if you're missing all the notes, at least if the rhythm is correct, we're at least staying together. If you're concentrating so much on the notes and you're getting the notes right, but they're in the wrong place, they actually become a wrong note. So that is a simple phrase I say all the time before we sight read, is rhythm is number 1. Besides keeping things simple, do the unexpected. I know when I look back over my many years in school, oftentimes the things I remember the most are things that were unexpected. And take advantage of these things when you're teaching. Sometimes these can be things that you plan on and they're not unexpected for you, but they are unexpected for the students. One thing I did unexpectedly one time to help kids remember good posture was I kind of joked with them about kind of, their intelligence. And because kids oftentimes will come in and they will sit down, and however their music stand is they'll gear their whole posture around the stand, and they don't adjust the stand. They don't move to the left, they don't leave it right, they don't move it up, they don't move it down. It's just like it's there. And so oftentimes I would come in, and I remember the first time I just said to them, I said, look, I know you're going to love this. This is going to make your day, because I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you feel so good about yourself. You are smarter than a music stand. Oh, you're smarter than a music stand. Okay, when you sit down, manipulate the music stand where it helps you to sit properly. You're smarter than it is. You can lift it up, move it down, move it to the right, move it to the left. Do what you need to do to see your music and have good posture, because you're smarter than a music stand. So far we have keep it simple, do the unexpected, and the third one is make your ideas concrete. For instance, we're talking about breathing. just have them imagine a vacuum cleaner. Have them pretend they're a vacuum cleaner, because breathing is a process of suction. So tell them to pull in air, just like a vacuum cleaner, pulls in dirt from the carpet. Sometimes you can make things concrete in terms of how they're playing their music. Like make a retardando like a ball slowly rolling to a stop. Make a crescendo like a plane taking off. Make a decrescendo like light fading into the sunset. So instead of just telling them to play softer or telling them what a piano is or pianissimo is, give them concrete things that they can actually picture in their minds, and that will help them remember it. Be concrete. Number 4, you have to be credible. Now, this is a little different than the things I've been talking about in terms of actual teaching ideas. This applies more to when you're trying to build your program and you want the ideas and philosophies that you have to stick in terms of the basic culture of your program. You have to be credible. You have to be believable. And that's one of your biggest tasks, particularly when you take over a new program, is building your credibility. When I first arrived at Riverview High School in 2008, I really had to build credibility. And I didn't feel like the band was ready for a contest, really for 2 years. I had taught long enough to kind of know where they were at, and it wasn't going to be in their best interest. And I felt like it really destroyed my credibility to take them to some high-end competitive events and for them to do terribly, which I knew that's probably what we would do. We would do relatively well compared to the past, but not where they needed to be. And so I spent my first 2 years building credibility about how fun band was and how good they were doing and how they were progressing by going to non-competitive type events. We would play with a local university. I brought in respected clinicians to work with them during a rehearsal. We did events like solo and ensembles where they would be able to perform things individually or in groups of 3 or 4 as opposed to a full band. We did mass band events with hundreds of other kids at football games. We performed at elementary schools, and those elementary kids, boy, they just really pour out, their love for music and musical groups. So I provided plenty of positive musical experiences for them before throwing them into real competitive events that might discourage them. And in that way, it helped build my credibility in terms of providing good, positive experiences for the students. So far we've covered simple, unexpected, be concrete, be credible, and the next one is use emotion. A lot of times when we are teaching music, we approach the dynamics totally wrong. We make it like a mechanical response. We say, okay, it says forte there, play forte. It says pianissimo, you need to play very soft. Here, you get louder. And they're going to remember more of what to do if you tie dynamics into emotion. Why emotionally did the composer choose to make this soft? Why is it fortissimo and accented? What's the emotion part of that? Because we want them to respond to music emotionally, not just mechanically from what it says on a page. And the group is a lot more likely to play the dynamics that you need and play musically is when they're performing, they're thinking about it from an emotional aspect. The idea of what they're supposed to do dynamically is more likely to stick. Use emotions in music. That's one of the most tremendous benefits of music, is this emotional expression that the kids are allowed to have and the directors can demonstrate as well. And there's a certain vulnerability in that as a director, getting up in front of a group and expressing emotion and asking for all the range of emotions that you can have in a piece of music. But they're a lot more likely to play musically and do the dynamics if you want, if you make emotion a very large part of your teaching. And finally, we have stories. Band directors love to tell stories. I love to tell stories. And so I have to be really careful a lot of times that out of a 50-minute rehearsal, I don't spend half the time talking and telling stories. A lot of that comes as a result of age. When you get as old as I am, sometimes all I have are my stories. So I have to be really careful not to bore people to death. But use stories to illustrate points that you want the kids to learn, because stories really do make ideas stick. There's one that I like to use in terms of teaching breathing. It's a true story based on when I was in the 3rd grade. My dad was going to train in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, in pilot training before he went to Vietnam. And so we had to move everything in our house down, pack up almost everything to go down to Fort Walton Beach. We lived in Alabama at that time. And that included various animals that I had. I had gerbils, I had an aquarium. And so we were going to move the smaller animals down with us, because we we're going to be down there for about 2.5 months. And so my dad walks into my room. He has a white bucket and a long clear tube in his hand. And he's walking over towards the aquarium. I say, Dad, what are you doing? And he says, we got to lower the water level in the aquarium so it doesn't spill when we're traveling down to Florida. And I said, well, how are you going to do that with the tube? And he says, well, we're going to siphon the water out. Maybe I should have known what siphoning was. I don't know. I was only 3rd grade. And he says, well, here, I'll show you what siphoning is. And so he puts the bucket on the ground, puts the tube in, and he runs the upper tube into the aquarium. And I said, Dad, isn't that going to hurt the fish? And he says, no, they know not to mess with this thing in there. And so he gets the other end of the tube that was in the bucket, and he sucks on it, and he gets the water going. Okay, and so the water starts going in. And one of my goldfish, Charlie was his name, he decides to go over and take a look at what this tube was. And so he kind of goes over, and he kind of is going over like this, and that tube sucks his left eyeball out. Just sucks it out. And I was so grossed out. And then it's going down the tube, and it gets stuck in the middle of the tube. And then my dad's having to kind of work the eyeball down the tube, And it's pretty well scarred me for life. I also lost a certain amount of respect for my dad in the fact that he doesn't know as much about fish as I thought of at that point, because apparently Charlie did not stay away from it like my dad said. Now, how do I relate that story to breathing? Well, I tell them, hey, when you breathe in, pull that air in, suck it in, just pretend like you're sucking in a goldfish eyeball. Okay, that's gross, okay? But it's a story. And a lot of them are going to remember that story for a long, long time. And by the way, there's a happy ending anyway. Charlie lived another year. He was famous around the neighborhood as Charlie the one-eyed goldfish. I had friends of mine coming in just to see this one-eyed goldfish. And other than kind of bumping into the side of the aquarium, every now and then, he was fine. He was okay. So, happy ending. Well, I hope my ideas today will help you in this new year. And maybe doing all 6 of those things all at once might be kind of tough, but pick at least a couple of them and make an intense effort to do things that will help kids remember concepts you're teaching longer.